Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, we're back. Uh, let's see. Back here with Rich Brotherhood Reviews, live stream. If there's anybody out there, I just started doing this. I don't really expect many people to be in the live streams since I really don't even have a set schedule for them. Well, let's get into it. Today we are going to be going over the One Piece spoilers for 1087, and I'll be giving my thoughts on that. And after that, maybe we will watch a few theories, or if we have some time. Now, let's just jump straight into the spoilers. 1087. Battleship bag. Okay, I'm liking the name. The full chapter takes place in Hachinosu. Garp versus Kuzan slash Blackbeard pirate continues. We can see the flashback about young Kuzan training with Garp. They use battleships as sandbags. Garp, that's crazy. Battleship as sandbags. So Garp is stabbed by Shiryu when he defends Kobe. Garp and Kuzan punch each other in their faces using hockey and creating a huge explosion. At the end of the chapter, Garp is lying on the ground and Kobe, don't panic, justice will prevail. Let's see what else. Garp shows advantage when he fought the other Blackbeard pirates, and after Shiryu's sneak attack, Garp, he smashed him to the ground with a single punch. Garp collapsed at the end of the chapter, but not shown defeated. Next week, color spread for One Piece celebrating 26th anniversary. So, it seems like it could be more of a draw. The Garp fight and Kuzan seems more of a draw, which I honestly kind of like that it's a draw, because but it also shows that Oda is nerfing Garp also, with Shiryu sneaking up and stabbing him. It's kind of like when Katakuri stabbed himself, except Shiryu stabbing him, to make it more of an even fight. And the fact that they used battleships as sandbags, like, what does that even mean? Like were they bench pressing battleships or something? Like that's going to be interesting to see. And we actually are going to get to see a former Marine admiral's flashback. So I'm pretty sure that's like will probably be like one of the first admiral, at least higher up flashbacks for a Marine. Yeah, so the fact that this whole chapter is mainly going to be about Garp and Hachinosu too is like, I kind of want them to throw a little something else in there, especially since all the other chapters have been jam-packed with multiple different things and themes and otherworldly aspects that's going on right now in the One Piece world. So I can't wait for that. Let's see. I've only really been streaming for 20 minutes, so yeah, that's really it that I have. Matter of fact, let's go into check out this giant sake. Let's see what's going on with him. Oh. Okay. Hello. Now, also like I said, I'm only gonna probably watch one or two. Just cause you know, there's nobody really here, nobody, you know, so we'll wait until get a little bit more popular to, you know, do more long form discussions and things like that. But I wanted to watch this earlier, but I figured it would be better to watch this on stream, because as if you've been watching my content, I am not a theorist. I just like to watch other people's theories. So
meet Kiana, Shiori, and Karthik, just a few merchants from around the globe who have switched to Shopify, the leading
Dragon, which in turn led to Luffy, and Shanks even seems to be connected to Figure. Like Roger and so many of the other greats in One Piece, did Rox D. Xebec have a child that made it to the current generation? It would make some sense since every Rox pirate that our crew has met had some, because Big Mom is named Big Mom for a reason, Kaido had Yamato, and
I think right now everybody's pushing the fact that Rox has to have a heir or something, is because like Roger had one. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody integral to the story had some sort of heir. Even like Whitebeard, like we're still trying to figure out whether or not Whitebeard Jr. is his real son or not, because Bakken is like, nah, that's pretty much said to us, nah, that's his biological son, and we need that child support. So, you know, so I think that's why people are pushing the narrative of Rox, of you know, Shanks or Buggy being Rox's son, more so Shanks. And I, just to get that out there, I am a firm believer that Shanks is the nephew of the figureland that we saw, and probably like his mother. Like it would make more sense if he was like the nephew of him, and his mother was like fell in love with Rox, and it would just connect the God Valley story so much better, with him being the child that they found on God Valley, or took from God Valley. However, the narrative is going to push that when it comes down to us getting the rest of the information on that. But let's hear his Rox and Crocodile theory.
Whitebeard went on to adopt tons of kids to call his own, and even the other stars of God Valley had children, because Garp presumably had Dragon, which in turn led to Luffy, and Shanks even seems to be connected to Figureland Garling. Before Film Red, Shanks was probably the most common choice to be the son of Rox, and while still technically possible, I think most people are looking in another direction now, like maybe Blackbeard, because he's obviously paralleling Rox in a lot of ways, or potentially even Buggy, who I just talked about for like an hour with 3 Volcane Recon Parvision and Hidden Island. There's even theories about Rox being cloned or something like some of the other Rox members, but none of these answers ever sat right with me. At least that was until about a day before I started recording this video, and that's all thanks to a Reddit post from Queen Flowers 91, which you can find down below. The post itself is super convincing, but the additional evidence that I found afterward pretty much seals the deal, to me at least, that the child of Rox D. Xebec is Crocodile. This theory really starts with the Egyptian god Sebek, who is a crocodile. You may have heard of this god as Sobek before, but Sebek is also a common spelling, and obviously this name is pretty damn close to Xebec. And since Crocodile took over Alabasta, which parallels Egypt, there is obviously something going on here. If you play old school RuneScape, that's why the crocodile boss in the desert raid is named Xebec. Not to mention Crocodile has sand powers, and sand literally comes from rocks that have weathered down. But currently, Crocodile is 46, meaning he would have been 8 years old during the time of God Valley. So the timeline is certainly valid. He was just 1 year older than Luffy was when he ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi, or the Hito Hito no Mi Model Nika, whatever. So Crocodile could very well have been influenced by rocks in the events of God Valley, just like Luffy was by Shanks. And maybe that even spills into the reason why Crocodile has always hated Whitebeard. Even since Croc was basically a rookie, he had some issue with Whitebeard. During SBS 78, Oda was asked about a newspaper that we saw during the Corazon flashback that actually featured Crocodile and was reporting him as a hero. The reason for this was, originally, he became a rising star in the pirate world just like Luffy, and then he quickly accepted the role as a warlord and became known for hunting down pirates, and one of those pirates was Whitebeard. But why him specifically? Whitebeard actually asked that same question about Ace to Masked Deuce during the Ace novels, which if you haven't seen my man Marked by Flames theory yet, I definitely recommend checking that out. But on one hand, Croc may have just wanted more notoriety and to become an emperor on his own. But Whitebeard was closer to his prime back then. We don't really know who the fourth emperor was at that time because Shanks only became an emperor about 6 years ago, but Whitebeard was Roger's rival and known as the strongest man in the world. So why would Crocodile pick a fight with him of all people? Well, it could have something to do with Whitebeard's past with rocks. Did Whitebeard maybe betray rocks at some point, or at least that's how Croc perceives it? And if Croc did have some kind of history with the rocks pirates, that would kind of answer how Crocodile knew something about Pluton. Even though he was wrong about the actual ancient weapon being there, the fact the ancient weapon's poneglyph was there meant whoever told him that knew what they were talking about at least a little bit. And this history with the rocks pirates could even tie to the secret that Ivankov knows about. Croc being the child of rocks could potentially answer every single one of these mysteries. Whitebeard has always been kind of the odd man out among the rocks pirates to me. Big Mom, Kaido, and Shiki are all a little more evil than Whitebeard ever seemed to be. Perhaps this differing ideology was illustrated during the rocks days, and maybe Croc's hatred for Whitebeard stems from that. Did Whitebeard potentially betray rocks at God Valley, like Squard betrayed Whitebeard maybe? I mean, in fact, that very thought drove me to go check out that scene in the manga, because if you recall, Crocodile saw that event happen with his own 2 eyes. In the entire war up until that point, Croc had just one goal: kill Whitebeard. And when Squard stabbed Whitebeard, Croc even complained about him being weak. But then Whitebeard hugged his son, claimed he still loved him, and said a son does not need to bear the sins of the father. And he then offered a chance for every pirate to escape if they didn't believe him. Once Croc saw that, he immediately turned around to help save Ace.
The new Swiffer Power Model. Love it or your money back.
With the price of just about everything inflating these days, you may wonder why Mint is deflating the price of Mint.
That speech from Whitebeard caused Crocodile to do a complete 180. Even Sengoku was surprised at this turn of events because he thought he could use Crocodile against Whitebeard. And Sengoku is the one who told us about God Valley in the first place, so maybe he knew something here. Was there some reason that what Whitebeard said changed Crocodile's mind? Could it maybe be that Crocodile sympathizes with Ace, a man who had to hide his true name from the world because of his father? If Croc has been hiding the name Roxy Crocodile or whatever all along, then seeing Whitebeard's display of parenthood in that moment may have shown him that the old man isn't so bad, especially if he's helping somebody like Ace who lived a life so similar to his. Not to mention, Rox and Roger were obviously big-time rivals in the past, so having their children parallel each other by both needing to hide their true names in the future generation just makes so much sense to me. And if you think about it, Ace and Crocodile share a lot of similarities. Both were formally introduced in Alabasta, both have had Logia powers, both fought Whitebeard when they were rookies, both were offered to become warlords very early in their career even though Ace turned it down, which in and of itself could parallel Roger and Rock's wills, and you could even say they have somewhat similar aesthetics, with both of them having a kind of cool guy feel with medium length black hair and even facial markings, with Ace having freckles and Croc having his iconic scar. I mean, look at their pictures sisters as kids. If you slap some freckles onto Crocodile, he would just be one hairstylist away from looking like Ace. These two have a lot of parallels, but if they are truly the children of Rox and Roger, then there may be some interesting inversions. Ace wanted nothing to do with his biological father, and he just wanted to carve his own path into the world. But Croc may be following in his father's footsteps, creating these big shot organizations with the goal of creating his own utopia. Both of them needed to hide their identity, but for opposite reasons. Ace just didn't want to have the same name of his dad, who he didn't like, and Crocodile may have needed to in order to fulfill his dad's dream, a dream that is somewhat similar of the other Rox pirates that we've met extensively, Kaido and Big Mom. Kaido wanted to make a world of war where the strongest reigned supreme, basically, and Big Mom wanted to create a place where every race could live together. Both of these were their forms of utopias, you could say, and even as recently as chapter 1082, we hear Croc talking about forming his own utopia. Maybe that was what united the Rox crew in the past. While
I get where he's coming from with the whole age and everything, but the views I think is different, because he wants a utopia like a Garden of Eden, somewhere where everybody can be treated equal. Rox wanted to rule everything in chaos, I believe, if I remember correctly. So like,
they were known as a crew back then, there seemed to be constant infighting.
But I see where he's going with it.
Good for nothing, and Kaido talked about how pirates always betray each other. It feels like Rox was more of an organization than a typical pirate crew like the Straw Hats have, and that's something Crocodile has kind of specialized in. He never has a prototypical crew, but instead has organizations like Baroque Works or the Cross Guild. Other than maybe the exception of Mr. One, there isn't a true loyalty to Crocodile by any of these members. And similar to God Valley, which was erased, Crocodile even wanted to destroy Alabasta when he finished with his plan. Yet another potential connection between these events. And what would a Crocodile theory be if I didn't at least mention Crocomom, which some of you may be disappointed to hear I don't think is necessarily true, but Crocodile being a female in general does gain some traction here. Because as I mentioned, Ivankov knows some secret or weakness of crocodiles, and if his goal was to hide his true identity from the world so he won't get hunted down because of his father, what better way than to just change your gender? Maybe Croc was originally Rock's daughter and was well known for that, and so was chased around the world after God Valley, and then Ivankov was probably one of the only people in the world who could really save Crocodile from that lifestyle by turning him into a man and hiding his identity. Croc may have been pursued after God Valley somewhat like Robin was after Ohara. Robin was 8 years old back then, and Croc was 8 years old after God Valley. Robin was known as the demon child, and maybe Croc was known as the child of a demon. Robin was pursued because she could read the poneglyphs, and maybe the government had a hunch that Croc knew a thing or two about them as well from his time with Rox, which might even be evidenced by the fact he knew Pluton was connected to Alabasta. And of course, these two also ended up working together as Mr. Zero and Miss All Sunday within Baroque Works. Two people who may have had similar pasts in their own right, who are also pursuing similar goals. The first time we saw Crocodile, he was introduced with a white lily, and Oda associated the white lily with Robin during an SBS, furthering the connection between these two. And there's actually a lot of other characters who shared a similar feeling at the age of 8 specifically. Sanji left Germa at the age of 8, Momo was sent to the future at the age of 8, Shirahoshi called for the Sea Kings for the first time when she was 8 years old, even Doflamingo killed his dad when he was 8 years old, and he parallels Crocodile quite a bit, which I'll discuss later.
That's a crazy like coincidence. Not coincidence, because I feel like Oda plans a lot of the things he puts in here, but everything happening at the age of 8, it's oddly suspicious. It's oddly suspicious.
Later. A lot of important characters went through some serious stuff at the age of 8, so the fact that Crocodile was 8 during God Valley should raise some red flags. In tying this all back to Ivankov, if Croc really was a female at some point, then Eva would be the one person who knows the truth of his identity. Nobody would know where this male crocodile guy came from other than Ivankov, and that's what makes the secret matter so much. It's not even that Croc would be embarrassed or anything about the gender swap. swap, it's that it would reveal his true identity as the child of rocks. And this makes sense because Ivankov has been the king of name drops in One Piece. Most recently, Eva told us about Nerona Emu, which is just
Best theorist in One Piece.
Also knew a bunch of level 6 prisoner names who eventually became Blackbeard pirates. Ivankov seems to know all sorts of names from history, so having Eva be aware of crocodiles could be poetry. And the interesting thing to me is that if Croc is really related to Zebek in any way, then Alabasta and God Valley may have some uncanny parallels. Obviously, God Valley got erased, and Croc wanted to eliminate Alabasta with a giant bomb after his plan. Croc's entire goal was to get the ancient weapon Pluton, and I've discussed in probably 3 videos by now that Uranus is very likely tied to God Valley. Check out this Vegapunk Mother Flame video or just this Uranus video for more info there, but the big piece of evidence for all that is Shiki, who was a rocks pirate, because he said that he knew Roger was aware of the location of an ancient weapon. Roger didn't meet Odin yet at this point in the journey, or Gondwana, so Uranus is kind of a safe default for this. Perhaps Zebek's plans at God Valley were similar to Crocodile's at Alabasta. Get an ancient weapon, eliminate everyone on the island, and then use that power to form a utopia. I mean, it is kind of uncanny that Crocodile's Denden Mushi has the same markings as the egg on Roger's ship.
Meet Grammarly Go, your go-to solution for getting quality work done quickly.
Just like how Croc went to Alabasta but only found Pluton's poneglyph, I think the same thing might have happened at God Valley, where Rocks found the poneglyph instead of the real weapon. Now, I do think there's a chance that they found the egg there and someone with Bonnie's powers aged it up so Uranus returned temporarily, but that's an idea for another video. Since Shiki said Roger knew the location of the weapon specifically, it makes me think that Roger would have read or heard that poneglyph, similar to how he heard Poseidon's poneglyph talk about a great power. Croc went for the god of the underworld, and maybe his dad inverted that a little bit by going for the god of the sky. Maybe God Valley showed Croc that the god of the sky was unattainable right now, so he went for the opposite one instead. He could basically be pursuing some alternative version of his dad's dream, pursuing the power of the ancient weapons in order to form his own utopia. Croc wanted Pluton, maybe his dad wanted Uranus. And funnily enough, the banana gators are the only natural predator to the Sea Kings. It's like these crocodile adjacent beings just can't stop hunting ancient weapons. It's like they're all the ancient weapons kryptonite almost. This could be the reason that Croc is getting so important again in the end game of the story. We still don't know who Caribou is working with for sure, but I love the idea that he's actually Mr. 10 from Baroque Works to tie this all back together. Shout out Randy Troy for that one, because this would truly give Croc the ancient weapon that he's been looking for all along. And if you think about everything from Oda's perspective, he thought the series was going to be like 5 years when he started. He didn't know it would go on to be almost 1100 chapters and counting. But Oda is also an author who knows the ending to his story. So that means that if you want answers to the end game, you need to look at the early game. And Alabasta was a massive turning point early in the story because it was where we found our first poneglyph, we heard of our first ancient weapon, and we met the Nefertari, who we now know turned down the chance to become celestial dragons, and they have the Will of D. And we have to remember that God Valley happened towards the beginning of Roger's journey, someone who we know parallels Luffy, obviously. So there may be a mirror between the events at God Valley and what we saw at Alabasta. I mean, Sengoku did say that Rocks was both Roger's first foe and perhaps his greatest. Crocodile may not have been literally Luffy's first foe in the entire story, but he was the first warlord, and for sure Luffy's first serious challenge in the Grand Line. And while Croc isn't as strong as Kaido or some of the other enemies that we've seen since then, the fact that we are seeing Croc, Pluton, the Nefertari, and all this other stuff from Alabasta coming back into play now in the final saga, I don't think it's that.
I feel like there's sorry about if you could hear the moan in the background, but there's a lot of fluff. There's definitely a lot of fluff in between everything that's going on, but pretty much I feel like you made your point already about how he could possibly be his son, which makes sense because Croc was 8 years old when Rocks was running rampant. So earlier in his life, he could have, been messing around, had kids. and that's logical and sound. The mirror between him and Ace was actually really good, and I like that. It really brought a different element to his character that I didn't really look at before. And yeah, I think it's plausible. Like the possibilities are there. I don't think that whole speech bot from Blackbeard really is like a mind changer of like, oh my god, like the sins of your father type thing. Like, nah, I don't really think that like hit him any different to make a claim for him to be Sebek's son. But there's a lot of good solid points so far, and it's like 6 more minutes. I'm gonna probably watch like 3 more minutes if it's still like, because at this point I feel like it's mainly fluff. I feel like we've gotten off subject now of the video, but
crazy to say that Croc is at least one of the biggest villains Luffy has faced. I mean, Garp teamed up with Roger at God Valley, and Alabasta is where Smoker first started realizing the Straw Hats may not be the bad guys, because at least early in the story, it was clear Garp and Smoker were meant to be parallels for chasing Roger and Luffy respectively. Smoker may have fallen off in the post time skip since we barely see him, but the connection still stands, and might hint that these islands are a little closer than we realize. Oda may have set this up where Luffy, the son of the revolutionary and most dangerous man in the world, Ace, the son of the Pirate King, and Crocodile, the son of Roger's nemesis, basically, the children of the 3 biggest enemies of the world government, you could say, were all together at one point in Alabasta. There's even a great parallel to Doflamingo here. You've probably heard before about how similar Alabasta and Dressrosa are, with both of their countries being taken over by warlords, the royalty having history from before the Void Century, the countries were ruled by people whose families at least had a chance to become celestial dragons, and even a few other things. But the arcs are kind of inverted as well, because Dressrosa was an example of what happens if the warlord successfully takes over, while we saw that takeover in progress during Alabasta. But the thing with Dofi is that he was the child of a good celestial dragon family, which we don't usually see. Could Oda invert that with Crocodile by making him the child of a bad D-clan member? If people like Sabo and even the Nefertari have wills similar to D-clan members without actually having the initial D, or at least knowing they have it, then surely there are people on the opposite side of that, right? Who were born with the initial D but don't really carry the will. That's why it's called the will of D. The initial only means so much, really. So maybe Rox and Crocodile, to an extent, are from bad members of the clan who still use that initial for whatever reason. When Robin and Cobra headed down to the Poneglyph crypt in Alabasta, Cobra mentioned how the Nefertari were meant to protect the Poneglyph, a statement which Robin scoffed at. And knowing what we know now, the Nefertari were one of the original 20, so Robin may have assumed they weren't good people, that protecting the Poneglyph was a charade and they were really keeping that information hidden from the world. But now we know the Nefertari were true D-clan members. Maybe Robin was working with a fake D-clan member, and Rox D Crocodile, and now he's using Kobe to make Hachinosu its own country. Law was a warlord and then worked with Caesar and then Luffy, and now he's back. But as for Crocodile, what is his true or original name? Ace kept his name Ace but changed the family name, where Crocodile is just one name so far. I mean, yes, he's usually called Sir Crocodile, but Sir isn't his family name. So whatever Crocodile's true name is, it's probably something different than just Rox D Crocodile, if I'm taking a guess. I mean, the name Crocodile itself is almost loosely Rox D Isle. We all love to pretend people's names have a hidden D, like Con D, Oriano the Goat. So I want to see you guys leave some comments down below for what you think Crocodile's true name was.
alright, that's about it. I don't see anything getting any more serious. Lawn mowing starting to get crazier, so I'm going to end this stream, and I hope you guys have a good daytime, night, whenever you guys decide to watch.